March 12th, prior to us reconvening coming out of recess. We're going to have today a couple of words from our own City Council member, Bob Mahaffey, and we'd ask those of you who would participate with us to stand at this time.
For invocation, I've chosen a short prayer from the Meditations for Meetings. If you join with me in prayer. Lord, we present among us as we meet together to conduct business, that then may we minister to our sisters and brothers as a whole persons, being sensitive to their needs and supporting them. at the same time give us a renewed commitment and a cleaner understanding of our tasks as members of this council. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Mahaffey. Clerk, I presume you've already taken roll. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended. Do we have a motion to do so? Move. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Move forward with the agenda. B is approving the consent agenda. These items are items 3 through 29 tonight. These are routine items, and they are presented and enacted generally in one roll call vote without separate discussion unless somebody either from the audience or City Council here pulls items for clarification or further discussion. This evening, specifically item 5, council members County and Moore vote no. Item 6B, I am pulling for some discussion and to speak to that. Item 28A, Councilmember Hensley votes no. Are there any other items that anyone would like to pull? Items 3 through 29. These are the consent agenda items this evening. Seeing none, could we have a motion for the balance?
Move.
Any discussion? It's been moved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Consent items passed. I will refer now to item 6B. 6B is ordering construction of the following. B is a Hubble Elementary School enhanced school crossing. The bids received 3/20 of 12. We're going to set the date of hearing for April 9th of 12. The only reason that I think that we ought to discuss this, I think we're always looking to help not only the public safety for our citizens and certainly the students in school, but how we partner with the school district. And I'm going to quickly ask the city manager to give us sort of a quick accounting, if you will, Mr. Manager, in a lot of the ways that we work with the school district, and then also discuss items like this, which I think could set a precedent, especially in times when we are struggling with budgets. You know, how should we handle these? Should these be partnerships with the school district? How should we do items like this that are capital expenditures, which pretty much, as near as I can tell, are pretty much all on the part of the city? There is some state participation in this, but the balance is all city dollars. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. The City of Des Moines has in place today a whole variety of things that we do in the way of safety improvements or traffic improvements that relate to public schools. A few of these, I'm not going to go into details: school flashers, crosswalks and school crossing signs, mid-block school crossing signals, and perhaps most recently you might remember the street improvements drop-off lane that was constructed in front of the downtown school on Grand, where the cost of that project was around $230,000. The school paid a portion, I think about $132,000, and the city paid about $100,000. In each one of these cases, the city council's policy over the years has been to provide financial support for these things. I think out of the interest of helping and supporting the school, I think that's been a good policy over the years. But in a lot of ways, it's a new day, and we're all sort of struggling with budgets in different ways. The item on the agenda this evening, 6B, the Hubble Elementary School Enhanced Crossing, is a project that has an estimated cost of $227,000. $120,000 is coming from federal safe route funds that we get through the state of Iowa. And then the remaining balance of $107,000 is proposed to come from GO bonds. So 100% of the cost of this would be borne by the city with some safety funds that we get through the state. The school would not have a contribution to you. And so I simply suggest it as, here's an example of a project that's one that perhaps ought to have a cost share between the city and the school. Most of the projects that we've done like this in the past, where there's been a safety enhancement or traffic improvement for a school, there has been cost sharing, and you may want to consider that here. I wouldn't suggest delaying this. This is really initiating the construction process. We would be going out to bid. But certainly between the time that you would act tonight, if you approve it, until you would actually award contract, it may be appropriate to have conversation with the school district to see if they would be willing to cost share in this particular improvement.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, and I think but for what we're looking for, I think is some direction in terms of policy, how we should do this, whether we should set up a meeting to have that discussion. The manager and I have set up some meetings in the past to discuss things, but I think this is a policy issue. So, Ms. Hensley.
Just a little background information on this particular project. I've had several meetings with the school, and to be perfectly honest, I was surprised that they weren't participating in the cost until, this came forward, because they were the ones that actually brought together, city, state, and it was really driven by parents of children that were concerned, working, they actually had meetings. Gary Fox was involved in a lot of those meetings before he retired. But I think that they need to be a part of it. I would agree we shouldn't delay it. And I also would agree that it seems that we need to have some type of a policy that we as a council determine, because routinely we get requests from the schools because of traffic flow issues, asking for us to address those, but then there's always the question as to who's going to pay for what. And if we could just have some agreement. I think we've got lots of policy already out there, or precedents already set, where they've actually contributed.
Right.
So I don't see where they should. I think this is a no-brainer. They should contribute. They're noticeably absent in this. And a policy probably needs to be developed so that we don't have to raise this question in the future.
So maybe we could, in accepting this and in moving this, Chris, if you might suggest referring it to the manager and legal staff to let's put together a policy on how we handle this moving forward. And I think that hopefully we're going to have that discussion and then bring it back to the council and let everybody know how we're.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and approve this because we still have time then to develop the policy as the mayor's indicated, and to make contact with the school board to visit regarding their potential share in this. And it will come back and we can have a full discussion of the policy and an update.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Seven yes.
That takes us to item 30 that completes the consent agenda. Item 30 is ordinances first consideration. Item 30 is amending Chapter 118 of the Municipal Code regarding the volume charge and customer service charge for sewer services and the ERU rate to be applied to the residential and non-residential property, sanitary, sewer, and storm sewer rate increases. Council Communication number 12-126. From in the audience to discuss this particular item. Had a number of workshops on this and also have discussed this a number of times. So if we could have a motion on this.
I'll move 30.
Item 30 has been moved.
Seven yes.
Item 31, amending Chapter 114 of the Municipal Code to allow left turns at Hickman Road and 62nd Street, and addition of a traffic signal at Hickman Road and Westover Boulevard due to recent Hickman Road widening by the City of Windsor Heights. Council Communication number 12-109. Is there anyone in the audience to speak to item 31?
I will move this item and waive the second and third reading.
Right. Motion to move and to waive the second and third non-pre-published.
Seven yes.
32 is not used. 33, items regarding the obstruction permits in city right-of-way. Council Communication number 12-125. A is amending Chapter 102 of the Municipal Code regarding insurance requirements of the right-of-way occupancy, the bond requirements of the right-of-way obstruction permits, remove the reference to the city licensure of plumbers, and address bond requirements for plumbing contractors. One is a final consideration of the ordinance above, and the waiver is requested by the city finance director and the city engineer. That requires 6 votes. Why don't we take that separately from item B? Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this one? We have a motion for 33A1.
Move.
Mr. Coleman?
I'm sorry.
7 yes?
Item B is amending Chapter 26 of the Municipal Code regarding insurance requirements and obstruction permit for the temporary use of public property. One is a final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the city finance director and the city engineer and requires 6 votes. Is there anyone in the audience to speak to this item?
I'll move.
Item's been moved. Mr. Coleman?
Your button must not.
Yeah.
7 yes?
I think you push it before she clears to get to the item 34, which is a communication report request from Gerald LeBlanc.
Mayor, can I interrupt for just a minute?
Yep.
I'm sorry. We're leaving the ordinances. I'm just wondering, because we've talked about it so many times as part of the budget, if there would be unanimous support for moving the second and third reading of item 30.
We can't do it.
You have to publish a notice between now and the second. You can waive the second and third at your next meeting.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I asked that question.
Back to 34, which is a request from Gerald LeBlanc of 2571 Guthrie Avenue to post 2 slow 35-mile-per-hour speed signs on either side of Valley View Retirement Home at 2571 Guthrie Avenue. Mr. LeBlanc sent us a request for this. He did say that he would like to have us discuss it. He is unable, for health reasons, to attend the meeting here this evening, but has asked City Council to please consider this request or some other request, I think, that it has to do with public safety on Guthrie around the Valley View Retirement Home. I think what I ought to do, Bob, I'm going to turn it over to you if you have any thoughts or comments on this, and see where we go.
Well, I do have some thoughts on this. I know Gerald's been here before asking for a stop sign and that on Guthrie, which would really impede traffic to do that. There is a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit right at their drive, the entrance where about 20 people live back south off of Guthrie. And they do have some difficulty getting out there at different times of the day. And as far as the signs, I don't have a problem with that. That's already 30 mile an hour through there. Skip and I talked earlier in the day, and I think Skip maybe would like to present something just a little bit different than what we have here tonight. But I guess I'll just turn it to Skip, see what his thoughts are.
Thanks, Bob. Any of you that know Jerry LeBlanc know that he's done a lot of really good work for us in the cemeteries throughout the city of Des Moines. And when he brought this forward, I drive Guthrie a lot, but I never really paid any attention to it, especially that drive. There is a concern there. What I've noticed driving Guthrie is that with 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, most vehicles have a tendency to drive around 35, maybe a little bit more than that. What I would like to do, and I'm in agreement with moving these signs and putting slow on them, but I would like to refer it back to staff and the Traffic Safety Committee for consideration and recommendation on lowering the speed limit from 30 to 25 on Guthrie between Hubble and I-235. And I know 5 miles an hour doesn't sound like much, but that might be the 5 miles an hour that will save some lives pulling out of that driveway. And if anybody could take the time to go over there, pull in that driveway and come out, what you'll see is that immediately west is a power pole. And I don't mean a power pole, I mean This is a huge one that can't be moved, but it's also a visual impairment. And I think we need to consider slowing the traffic down there somehow. I agree with staff recommendations that we don't put in flashing lights or a four-way stop. It's a staggered intersection, much like 31st and Grand, where the two streets north and south don't match up. But I'm going to make a motion that we refer this back to staff and the Traffic Safety Committee for consideration of dropping at 25.
And I would agree for that. If we have them look at it and come back to us, it'd be great.
Seven yes.
All right. Let's open the hearings at 5:05. First hearing item is item 35, which is on a request from Thomas Yaw to rezone 931 Southeast 21st Street from M1 Light Industrial to Limited M2 Heavy Industrial, subject to conditions. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waivers requested by the applicant requires 6 votes. Anyone in the audience to discuss item 35, which is a request to change the zoning on 931 Southeast 21st?
My name is Rick Olson. I'm an attorney at 2635 Hubble, and I drive East 25th and Hubble on a daily basis, and it is problematic. But I represent Tom and Carl Yaw as it concerns this rezoning. They're in the audience, and really they're here for any questions that might have to be answered.
Rick, I think it's fair to say this is a result of weeks, months of negotiations between your client, the WRA, and the City of Des Moines, and I think it's an excellent result. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, that's correct. It's a easement swap for a piece of land that is bordered by the old city dump, and it's a dead-end road, and we want to extend our salvage yard in that area.
Okay. If there's nothing further, I'll move 35A and B for final consideration.
Seven yes.
All right.
Have a good caucus.
Good to have you here.
You guys go a lot quicker than we do.
I'll see you in an hour or so.
36 on the conveyance of a permanent underground electrical easement at 102 45th Street to Mid-American Energy Company to provide electrical service to the Ashworth Pool facilities for $1. Is there anyone in the audience to
I'll move 36.
discuss this? Seeing no one, the item's been moved.
Seven yes.
Item 37, on appeal by Conlon Properties of a decision by the Historic Preservation Commission regarding the replacement of windows at 826 18th Street. A is affirming the decision to conditionally approve, or B, alternate resolution reversing the decision to conditionally approve, or C, an alternate resolution continuing the hearing until April 9th, 2012 at 5 p.m.
I'll move item 37C to continue to April 9th.
Anyone in the audience to discuss this item? Seeing none?
Seven yes.
Item 38, on renewal of parking lease agreement with Nelson Development LLC for 418 East Grand Avenue and to continue to April 23rd of 2012 at 5 p.m. Council Communication number 12-120. Is there anyone in the audience to speak to this item? This actually is to continue to April 23rd. Seeing none, could we have a motion?
Move.
Item's been moved.
Seven yes.
Item 39, on the vacation conveyance of a segment of Linden Street west of 14th Street to Wellmark Holdings, Inc. in exchange for a permanent easement for street right-of-way connecting the east terminus of the remaining Linden Street to Ingersoll Avenue and to continue to March 26th of 2012.
I'll move 39.
Anyone in the audience to speak to this? We are continuing this to March 26th.
7 yes.
All right, let's note that the hearings end at 5:10. Item 40 is preliminary terms of agreement with Macerich Southridge Mall LLC for the repurposing of Southridge Mall at Southeast 14th Street and Army Post Road, Council Communication number 12-127. Councilmember Meyer, any comment on this? I know you've been working hard.
If you'll indulge me for a few minutes, I'd like to have a presentation by Economic Development to sort of, Rita, are you going to give a presentation? And the reason I want to do this presentation is I think there's a lot of rumors going around and a lot of misinformation, and I think this will help clear things up. This is a great project, and once you see what it's going to be, I think you'll all agree. And I know that before we start the presentation, I'd like to thank Mayor County and Council Member Coleman, who have helped me over the last probably, several years, 2-3 years, to try and get this done. So, is that okay if we do a short presentation?
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody for working on this. Everybody in the South Side knows, and I know Councilmember Meyer has been working so hard on it. This is a major piece of real estate and a major anchor for Ward 4, and we're very excited about the possibility of the upgrading of this and to move it forward in the 21st century. So, Rita, you're on.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and city manager, Rita Connor with the Office of Economic Development. We wanted to just narrate a brief history, but as our elected officials and city manager have noted, this has been a long time coming, and a lot of folks at the table to try to make sure that we go forward with the best ability to get a good end product for the city and for the community that surrounds this property. Just for quick orientation purposes, we're at the southwest portion of the intersection of Army Post Road and Southeast 14th Street. The mall's been with us since 1975, and it was very much built in the style of how malls were built at the time. So it's pretty low density, pretty spaced out, lots of parking, and over time, that configuration doesn't seem to have been a friend to the mall in this market. And we have noted that as the vacancies have increased and conditions have deteriorated and things have occurred, the mall ownership has really taken a look at repurposing the area not to be a traditional mall with this kind of layout. The current conditions are definitely what everybody can see every day if you go down there as a patron. Very high vacancy. Despite best efforts, that's just continued. The buildings are not new any longer. We've got a strong voice from neighborhood organizations in the business community because this is the kind of regional facility that has an impact that's broader than within its own boundaries. And that's brought forward concerns from the public of what kind of things could we do to see a better outcome. And they're very much our partners down there in the neighborhood organizations and business community on the south side. We're looking at conditions of extreme distress. The vacancies are more evident, but what we see on paper is probably more distressing in terms of what's going on economically. In 1999, if we take a look at what was going on with the properties owned by the company and what we might call a peak year, you looked at about $64 million of valuation. Looking at it today, it's dropped by over $40 million. So we're very concerned about that. We see lots of upside down circumstances. We want to help take some action on to correct those things. There's no doubt about it that contributing to that factor has been metro-wide, millions of square feet of additional retail being added. We don't fault anybody else for wanting to bring forward stores and retail in their communities, but we want to try to partner where we can to assist this facility to get some of that investment back to the city of Des Moines. Macerich has come forward as the owner of the company. What we really wanted to see and what I think our strongest interests were what could be brought forward in terms of reinvigorating the area and essentially reinventing it. It was going to take a high dollar investment and will on the part of the company. About $27 million is what's currently estimated to just get in and make some initial efforts to try to turn this thing around. We felt it was very important that that was a front-end investment from the company, not a front-end investment from the city of Des Moines. It will involve, as our community development folks are already seeing, some partial demolition. You're going to see the facility get physically smaller as they try to create more competitive retail space. So we're not looking to fill the amount of retail space that's actually down there now. There will be a partial demolition and sort of reintroducing an area that people can use and experience in a different way, hopefully get some more competitive retail interested in this market. The creativity behind the idea that we're seeing come forward from the company has been to include some non-traditional uses and look at kind of a mixed-use development rather than a traditional mall. So uses that would generate foot traffic instead of just retail, which is definitely important, but when we see uses like DMAC and the Iowa Soccer Association Barnstormers sports facility looking at this area, those are potential patrons. That's the foot traffic. That's the kind of population that you want to see in an area like this that we hope can drive the new retail to be interested here. Definitely looking for that kind of investment. Our city manager has been very wise in his advisement to us that this is a bit of a different animal than things we've seen before. They do have some empty space that they're not quite sure what they're going to fill it with yet, but as we look to figure those things out going forward, each time we're taking a step, we're bringing it back for Urban Design Review Board and Council review. So we want to take forward that intent. This is a demonstration of what we would call the initial phase of work. So we are looking at, this is the Army Post Road area. So this is actually the north section of the property. Existing uses, Target, Sears, Yonkers. We think that's really important that the existing anchors are intending to stay and the company is motivated to have them stay. We've already got our existing uses with Toys R Us, several uses here along the Army Post frontage that are not going to leave us, but I think our main interest is making sure that if anything is considered, what would it end up being, and trying to safeguard that. The physical reconfiguration that you'll see, right now this is essentially the food court area where the carousel used to be. We'll take some different steps with that and look to introduce kind of an open air retail demonstration, dress up the entrances, dress up the frontages, have a pedestrian plaza, and again, try to work with both the nonprofit and for-profit partners to fully reinvigorate the area. Looking at the last slide was kind of what we saw as the initial phase and the work that they would undertake most immediately. This is the bigger look at the full area. Again, we see the same anchors that are looking to stay, reconfiguration of about 130,000 square feet of retail. These would be front entrances. Again, we hope that those are users that may be new to the market. This would be the facility marked for Des Moines Area Community College, and this would be the facility marked for the athletic complex. This entire area here, first phase, and as we get out into the areas where we've got some new commercial development opportunities, potentially high-density residential as well, we'll be making sure that we get a process in place where each time there's a new, as I said earlier, as a new project would be introduced, it would come back to the Urban Design Review Board and to this council so that we can kind of piece by piece put it together.
So the idea here, Rita, is that we would not just carte blanche say, you're going to go ahead and we're going to grant everything today, even though we haven't seen it. We want to see the pieces come back before us so that we
Correct.
know exactly what they're doing, how they're going to do it, make sure it's acceptable not only to the council, but I'm assuming Brian's going to want to make sure that his constituents and neighboring businesses are, everybody's comfortable with it and it's not a big surprise at the end of the day.
Exactly, exactly. When we're looking at the economic development assistance, this is the point that we've focused on in terms of how assistance would flow to this development project. We're excited to see the upfront investment. We're looking at that as being the vehicle, coming in and having the company do certain activities and undertake work. The tax increment that's generated by and paid by the valuation that those projects create is what goes back to the developer. So I don't say it lightly that this is a large front-end risk for the developer. but we feel confident that what they're putting together is the type of proposal that the city's interested in seeing. The development assistance would be proposed to be paid out over a period of 15 years, 10-year 100%, followed by 5 years at 75% of the increment that's produced by the valuation that they add. So we would look forward to any questions that the council might have or additional information we can share as staff.
So just for clarification, so that everybody understands, and the residents out in Bryan's area, we are preserving the 24 million that we now have is a present valuation. And so the increment that we're talking about, at least today, short of any change in that valuation, that the base is going to be the 24 million. That'll be returned to the tax on that to the jurisdiction, correct? And we're just talking about the increment above that occurs.
Yeah, I think it's important to note there is no front-end risk to the city. There is no front-end economic development monies going into it, but rather they get the increment. So, and we had this discussion on Friday. The more they do and the faster that they do it, the more on the increment they'll get in return. And again, no risk to the city. Is that fair to say, Rita?
We feel comfortable that we've structured something that the developer's carrying the front-end risk and not the city of Des Moines. So we're looking for them to make that investment.
Go ahead, Rick.
Well, I just wanted to drive home the point that both the mayor and Councilmember Meyer have said, and Rita, I think, answered as well. First of all, the base valuations, which is the way tax increment works, the base valuations will generate a tax, and that tax goes back to the taxing jurisdictions as it does today.
Correct.
Whatever that base valuation is at the time we execute the contract and incur debt. With respect to Mr. Meyer's comment, he's absolutely right. There is no fronting cash. There's no front-end money that we're putting into this deal. It is all tax increment generated dollars that will occur from new development that occurs here. So it doesn't touch the base valuation, which was the mayor's comment. And as Mr. Meyer said, all the revenue that comes from it comes from the new growth and development that occurs on the site. There's not upfront cash, which is a very important feature in terms of my analysis of it, because we frankly don't have a lot of cash to put into projects right now, and this project meets that test.
Correct.
Rita, so is it locked in at 24 million? That is the bottom.
There are two elements going on. This is part of a larger urban renewal area that actually encompasses the entire super block area, for lack of a better term. So everything
From the mall to the zoo.
Yeah, from the mall to the zoo.
Along our proposal.
As we put the urban renewal plan together, we included the 913 acres there, but the 21 properties that are owned by Mace Ridge are part of the larger area, and they will be dependent on the larger area in the sense that if there's a deduction, if there's a drop in valuation for the entire area, they could take the risk to not get a full payment or get a later payment, get a reduced payment, things of that nature. But what they are doing is essentially taking their block of properties, putting their front-end investment in, and the increment that's generated out of that will be what flows back to them according to the development agreement terms. So,
and I think go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to weigh in on this because this point is really important. It's about TIF in general, but particularly with this one, sometimes we know a business is going to build a building and it's going to be, this material, it's going to be this many square feet, and they'll agree to a minimum assessment at the front end. So you can run 20 years worth of, a formula to say, here's what we have. On this, if I lived on the south side, which I don't, but I care deeply for it, my hope would be that this economic incentive for Southridge would grow to a significant level because it's in proportion to what they do to improve the area. And I think that's what people have to understand. Sometimes we shy away from deals like this because there's too much blue sky in it. Well, that's, but in this case, that's a good thing because we want to provide an incentive as long as they continue to improve and enhance the area and agree that they're going to pay taxes on new development for a long time, forever.
And it's important to note three things. One, when we were first approached about this, it's not unfair to say that the alternative was the wrecking ball, that we're thinking about doing this, but if you don't want to do this, I think we're out. We're just going to tear the whole thing down. So that was the alternative. Secondly, I think it's fair to say that this is phase one. This is the initial phase on the $27 million investment, which, by the way, includes upgrades to the Target, the Yonkers, and the Sears, and the rest going to the new 6 storefronts where the food court is currently. And the third thing is, conversations with DMAC have already commenced. They're already building, they're already working with the school districts on the southern, in the southern suburbs. And so you have major things happening there, and I don't want people to think that this is what it's going to be. Or if you go down there now, what you see is what you're going to get. And so what you have is a tremendous investment that will be a great boost to the south side, but more importantly, it doesn't put the city at any risk, and the faster they do it and the more they spend, the more they'll get back in the increments. So it's a big investment, and it's important to note that one of the reasons I wanted to do this presentation is that this will be a reinvention. It's never going to be what it was in the 1980s or the 1970s, but it is a reinvention of what is there now, and hopefully will be better. So if there's no further questions, I'll move item 40.
Great project.
Enthusiastically, yeah.
Thanks, Rita.
7 yes.
It is half full.
Yeah.
And you have a trail coming to it from Gray's Lake.
Quickly, I would ask to have a motion to reopen the hearings and go back to item 35. We need to have a clarification on item 35, which is a request from legal department to clarify an item that came out of the P&Z report. And if we can get a motion to do so, I'm going to then turn it over to our city attorney.
I'll move to reconsider item 35.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? We now have item 35 is open under reconsideration. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize to the council. Had a little bit of miscommunication here that I'll take responsibility for. The materials that you have an ordinance that shows a condition, specifically 2B, that required some landscaping and site plan and landscaping requirements that for the property, and that was actually stricken in the acceptance of the rezoning ordinance by the applicant, and I believe that was concurred in by the WRA as owner as well. And so what we would ask, and what the need for the reconsideration is to ask for a motion to amend the ordinance by striking subsection 2B from the conditions paragraph of the ordinance and resolution that relates to the design standards and the site plan
As
and
per
landscaping
the
requirements.
negotiated agreement.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay. Is that the changes then?
That would be it.
With those changes, I'll move items 35, A and B again.
So this is the understanding the applicant plus his attorney was with when we approved it. They assumed that.
Yes, sir. If you look at 35A, the acceptance of the rezoning ordinance that's attached, it was stricken and initialed by the Yaws.
As long as it doesn't change anything from what they understood, that's.
Yeah, because they're not here.
Yes.
No, in fact, I think this probably moves it back to what they understood when they left.
This is
So-
what they would want it.
Okay.
I thought it was
Very
already
good.
in the motion, so.
7 yes.
All right, that does complete the hearing items and actually completes our agenda. I will say before we adjourn as City Council and reconvene as Board of Health, for all those of you that very anxiously await turning on your TV sets every morning to watch the exciting programming that's going on at the City of Des Moines TV channels, I want you to know that the moment that you've all been waiting for, which is to go back to Channel 7, is going to happen Wednesday, March 14th. So 2 days from today, we're going to be moving back to Channel 7. So those of you that have had to tune in on 86 or 97.1, get ready, you're back on Channel 7. So please make note of that, and as you're skimming around and surfing between 5, 6, 7, 8, and 13, why, we're going to be right there for you. All right, having said that, can we have a motion to adjourn the City Council and reconvene as Board of Health? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We now sit as Board of Health. First item is approving the legal department to proceed with a court action seeking authority to abate the public nuisance at the following locations. A is 4013 Cambridge Street. It's a garage structure. B is 1122 Rose Avenue. It's another garage structure. Are there people in the audience who would like to speak on either one of these items? Again, 4013 Cambridge and 1122 Rose. Seeing none, could we have a motion to abate?
Wait a minute. Here's somebody just walked in. Thank you, Chief.
Those items.
I'll
We have a
move.
motion?
I'll move.
All right, that has been moved.
That's 1A and B.
1A and B. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Item passes. Could we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. We sit adjourned.